Hey, I'm Dr. Pilet, and today's topic is going to be positive motivation. And I'm giving you that topic because a lot of people, especially in today's world, find it really difficult to stay positive. You're inundated. You're surrounded with negative. I mean, and if you don't believe that to be true, listen to the radio where they go to the news of the day. Have you ever noticed that the news really isn't good news? It's all about failure or death or accidents. You know, you're driving home and what do you hear? The accident report. Oh, there's a delay in here. There's a delay in there. Don't go there. Oh my God, the weather's coming in, it's bad. Or taxes are increasing while the economy is going into depression and unemployment is radical like we've never seen before. Substance abuse, domestic violence, and you're just covered every day with negative radiation through gossip, through negative rumor that people spread to you about other people, through media, whether it be television or radio, YouTube. You know, it's funny because even YouTube, I get somebody that will send me a little shortcut and say, hey, did you see this? And it's not unusual that the thing that they're asking me to look at is some ridiculous hardship or destructive power that's affected something. You follow that? So let me talk about positive motivation. Let me give you some ideas, and I want you to think about these terms and then hopefully try to apply it to your life. I want to ask you to think about PME versus NME. PME, positive motivational energy. NME, negative motivational energy. NME, enemy. The enemy of your life is negative motivation, negative emotions, negative, that happens to you, negative mental energy, positive mental energy. Now, you ever hear the idea of optimism versus pessimism? And it goes something like optimism is a person that looks at a glass and believes it's half full, and a pessimist looks at a glass and believes it's half empty. And you'll hear me say that, you know, optimism won't guarantee success, but pessimism will guarantee failure. Interesting how we think about that. When I ask you to make a decision to turn your life into something more positive, that decision begins with you scanning your life, looking around yourself, and just recognizing the flows of negative energy, because it's everywhere. I had a lady call me the other day. In fact, it was yesterday. She called me at 4 o'clock, and she was calling me to tell me about a mutual friend we had that was now in the hospital. Now, typically, that would be acceptable for me to get that news. Oh my God, I'm calling you to let you know that we have a friend in the hospital. But I haven't heard from this friend in 7 months. And 7 months ago when I heard from her, it was to let me know that somebody had lost their car in a flood. And when I think about every time I get a phone call from this person, it's always to announce to me some failure, some travesty, or something that's bad that's happened to somebody else. And I caught myself as I'm saying, well, thank you for this, and I will go by the hospital to go visit, but it really bugs me that the only time I ever hear from you is to tell me when something bad has happened. And now, of course, the person kind of backtracked a little bit and said, well, there are some good things going on. But you see what I was doing? I was setting up a boundary. The decision in my life that I want to hear positive and good things around me, and that I'm going to begin to find ways to center my life so that I maintain in the flow of positive energy. If it's something negative I need to know about, then I want to know about that. But I want to know about it in a constructive way that gives me a solution, something to add to my life. I don't want to just know about bad things in the world. I want to know about things in the world that I can impact or affect. What you've got to start beginning to do, once you start establishing yourself to this idea of positive emotional energy in your life, positive mental energy, is the first thing you got to do is stop the enemy. You got to stop that flow of unnecessary negative stuff. You got to prohibit it in such a way that you're making a decision. I don't really need to have any knowledge of that. Why are you telling me this? And guess what that includes? How about gossip? Rumor. When people tell you about somebody they know, my first thought is, why are you telling me that? Because I'm going to tell you that my experiences with that person have been nothing but delightfully positive. And even though you've got this gossip and negative stuff that you're telling me, I don't appreciate it. I would tell you, I don't really need to know about it. So you begin to center on your life and you begin practicing with those friends around you to let them know, I'm not going to participate in all this negative crap that's going around. You've heard me say maintain solutions focus. You've heard me say that. Because when people come up to you, often they use the you statement and they'll say, you know, I'm really pissed at you because you weren't on time, or because you owe me money, or because you made a promise. And don't get me wrong, you statements are necessary for you to hear information about things that you've disappointed. But typically the next thing I do when a person says that, I said, you know, I got it. I understand that I've offended you. But what do you have to offer for a solution that I can solve this problem? See, we call those I statements. Now that you've told me something that in a way that I've disappointed you, I'm going to go back to you with an I statement and say, I understand that I've hurt your feelings. I understand that I've disappointed you. What can you tell me that I would benefit from in doing to resolve this problem? We call that solutions focused. So as you begin to look at the world around you and limit the way that you have negative energy flowing to you, well, hopefully through practice and trial and error, you don't just limit, you eliminate. Think about the word eliminate. If you look at the word eliminate, it's got limit in it. But now we're eliminating it. We're getting rid of it. And I have to be frank with you. I don't get the newspaper anymore. I don't get the newspaper. The newspaper was such a negative experience that I quit listening to it. And then the other day I'm listening to the news. It's not the news. It's the bad news. I found myself turning off the radio. I found myself stop the newspaper. And when it comes to emails, if people are sending me negative things, I really kind of stay away from it. Understand, big difference between things I can resolve or correct and just bad information about the world around me. When you start to do that as a practice habit, first thing you're going to find out is you start to feel really good about yourself. Now, I'll be willing to bet that if there's a time today or tomorrow that you start to feel negative, I guarantee you're looking in the rearview mirror. You know what I mean by the rearview mirror? The rearview mirror. When we look at past failures, past experiences, and we take forward to the present moment all that crap that's happened in our life. I like to say it to you this way. You can't drive the car forward if you keep looking in the rearview mirror. Does that make sense to you? I mean, from a physical standpoint, if you got your hand on the steering wheel and you're looking in the rearview mirror, you're going to hit something because you're not paying any attention to what's in front of the automobile. You're looking at everything behind you. From a psychological impact, if you keep looking at the past, you're looking at all your failures and everything that you've done wrong. And by bringing everything into the present moment, you relive it. So I'm going to give you another statement I like to say, if you will. The brain can't tell the difference between a negative past experience and it happening right now. The brain can't tell the difference between a past negative experience and happening right now. You ever hear PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder? You know, we used to think that that was just something that occurred in war. You know, things that occurred like the landing in Normandy, or people that jumped out of airplanes and they landed into such hostile environments and saw such atrocities that they've never... But you know, guess what? We're figuring out that you can be a PSD from going through divorce. You can have such a profound negative experience by some mistreatment, emotional travesty that occurred to you in divorce, that 5 years from now, when you're trying to pursue another relationship, you're so overwhelmed by the past negative one that you can't trust anybody. That you don't find yourself having the ability to love like you thought you could because you've been so hurt and so traumatized by the past. Well, you know, understand, 5 years ago, you were hurt. Got it. And that happened. Now we're 5 years forward. And during that period of no relationship or building a relationship, nothing's really happened for you to relive that experience. But then you have an argument with your partner. Something happens to reconnect you to something from the past. Remember what I said? The brain can't tell the difference between the memory of a past negative event and having right now. So now you bring that negative event into the present moment. Well, I call that the enemy. Remember? NME, negative mental emotions. You brought that negative emotion into the present moment. And now what's going on in this new relationship truly isn't about what's in this relationship. It's all that negative crap you brought with you into this one. And you brought it so profoundly into your life. Now we're talking about optimism versus pessimism, where we started. Optimism. I believe I can make it. I can believe it'll work. Pessimism. Why try? Why make an effort? It's never worked out. And so when we have this notion of any idiot can make a bad situation worse, but it takes skill to make one better. Any idiot can make a bad situation worse, but it takes skill to make one better. I'm asking you to develop the skill of A, to recognize the influence of negative energy all around you. B, find ways to center on yourself and practice keeping it back. Practice keeping it back. Limit yourself from looking in the rearview mirror. Don't do it. You don't have to. Live from today and look forward. And then as you do that, try to keep repeating it. And as you repeat it, hopefully you're going to eliminate those people in your life that are negative, because that's profound. You're going to eliminate sources of negative energy. You know, for me, it's the newspaper, the radio, or anything that somebody sends me by YouTube or otherwise that has to do with, you know, all these problems that are unresolved. Because what I'm going to focus on is my life and how I can affect my life in positive ways. I'm a big believer in karma. You know what karma is? Karma is that idea of we're enveloped by an aura, a field of energy that we create. And I'm a big believer that as you invest in positive energy, believing that you can be successful, believing that your friends can be successful, find optimistic ways to encourage and support, then you're going to find they become more successful. And as you surround yourself with successful people, you become more successful, because opportunity isn't by chance. I sincerely believe that when you develop a positive karma in your life, all of a sudden things happen that, well, that's a miracle. You know, prayer, I'm not sure if you're a believer in prayer or not, but my mom was a devout Catholic. And one day I said to this, I said, Mom, do you realize that prayer is a request to a dimension outside the one you live in to affect the one you live in? And that caught her by surprise, because she's prayed most of her life. But she never really connected that the spiritual realm is not the one you live in, but you're asking that realm to impact the one you live in. Well, how does that happen? How does it happen that you find, accept, validate that positive radiation that's coming from this other source? Well, it's only going to come if you open yourself up to the sensitive nuances of your life to receive the message. To receive the message. And you only get there if you find positive enlightenment, a willingness to believe in positive things, and a receptivity. And all that occurs only if you do the things I asked you to do. Because if you inundate yourself with all the harshness and poor luck, bad luck, realities of life, and you get too focused on that, you disconnect yourself from receiving those messages, those guidances, those little softly spoken whispers that truly is the information you need to hear to course correct into a different direction. And when you start to do this stuff, and you start to believe in karma, positive energy, optimism, eliminating negative people from around you, you're going to start to find that your life begins to change in certain mysterious ways. And you're going to find yourself, like myself, where 5 years will pass, and you'll think about, well, that was really a miracle on how that happened. How these things that presented themselves to you came to you in such mysterious ways as to open your life. And then you start to say, wow, this stuff does work. Now I can give you dozens of examples from myself and everything about me for the last 15 years, where I now realize how I got to where I am, and I realized that I manifested success because I eliminated the negative and the naysayers, and I opened myself to inspiration and positive motivation, and these things came, and you act on them. But I wouldn't have heard them otherwise. I wouldn't have had the perceptive ability to connect to them and take action in that way. Okay? So today what we're talking about, is the idea of positive mental energy and how to eliminate, if you will, that notion of negative mental energy and how to begin moving in a positive way. I would ask you to try some of these ideas that I did, and I swear, go forward 60 days and look at where you are, and then you'll be profound, hopefully impressed by some of the successes and change that came in your own life. Okay? I'm Dr. Pilet. I hope you enjoyed that.